This is Amplify You, the podcast about you discovering your message and broadcasting it to the world. If you're a coach, author, or speaker, you'll want to tune in. If you're looking for the best return on your time investment to get your message out to the world in a bigger way, we're giving you full access and behind the scenes look of how we're running our podcast, how our clients have found success, and what you can do to launch your podcast today. The world needs your message. I'm Michelle Abraham, the host. Join my family as we unleash your unique genius and find the connections you need to launch your adventure today. Join us and let's get amplified. Hello, Amplified family. Michelle Abraham, your host here. Today, I'm really excited to bring you a behind the mic in episode. I want to say behind the scenes, but we're doing behind the mic today with a very special friend of mine that I met during last year on one of the talks I did for Vancouver Business Network. And his name is Jason Cronan. So Jason, hi, how are you?
How you doing, Michelle? How's your day going?
It's going great, Jason. Let me tell our audience a little bit more about you. What I love about Jason is he's like the go-to guy for wellness and movement and all things on the go wellness. And what I love that Jason actually records this podcast from his RV, which is super cool. Those of you who've listened to our podcast know that RVing is very dear to my heart. And I had such a great time. That's how I started my podcast journey, was from my RV too. So Jason has a master's degree in exercise science, and he specializes in a holistic personal and group wellness coaching for corporate and business individuals. Jason's been a keynote speaker on anti-bullying, finding balance, and plans to focus his extra time on motivational speaking. So Jason, as I mentioned, has a podcast called Wellness on the Go, which features professionals and individuals interviews that focus on one or more of the 8 dimensions of wellness, which we're going to dive into in a minute. And Jason believes that one should live life to the fullest, which I absolutely love. And the name of your business, Jason, is Body Express Wellness Solutions, which is also online, which is amazing, and offline and on location too. So welcome, and let's dive right in. How did you become interested in wellness?
The big story is when I was a young kid, I started with martial arts. I was bullied a lot in school, and I needed self-confidence and self-esteem, and I started doing martial arts and competing in martial arts. And to this day, I teach martial arts and kickboxing. So martial arts has really helped me change who I am and made me a better person, but also really, really has helped me physically, because I don't think without martial arts, I probably wouldn't have gotten into wellness. I was supposed to be a robotic engineer. So now instead of working with robots and machines, I'm working with people. And the martial arts have really helped me get into the fitness and wellness. And ever since then, I've been hooked on it.
That's awesome. And what motivated you to start a podcast all about wellness on the go?
The funny thing is Toastmasters. I've been in Toastmasters about 3.5 years, do competitive speaking. And Toastmasters had a project to do a podcast. And I always wanted to do a podcast. So a little over a year ago, I started doing podcasting, and I always wanted to try one. And then as a project, I did it, and I'm hooked to this day. And I've been booking people ever since. And I love it. And I want to keep going deeper and deeper into it and turn it into an actual show on TV, if possible.
Yeah, I love that. I'll have to talk to you about podcasts, the broadcast that we do on Pod Nation. That's a really cool platform that we have access to through our friend Teresa Goss. And it helps people get their podcasts on all those TV platforms, which is really cool. Yeah, we'll have to chat about that for sure. So Jason, I've seen you come to our Connect and Collaborate calls where you get to talk about your podcast, and you always have so many people wanting to connect with you on your podcast and be a guest on your podcast. You go on their podcasts. What has been your favorite thing? You say you're hooked now on podcasting. So what exactly has been your favorite thing about podcasting?
The most favorite thing about podcasting, I feel, is that honestly, the people that come onto my show are super, super talented, award-winning, best authors. And it's amazing how you can connect with people that are so established in just by a phone call or just by having them say, hey, can you be on my show? And in other days, for instance, like 10 years ago, those people would never be on my show or talk to me. But overall, I really appreciate everyone that comes onto the show and also helps me. It helps me physically, mentally, and emotionally because I learn from all these people. And it significantly helps all my listeners. So overall, I think it's a great tool for learning and also helping others at the exact same time.
I so agree with you. My specifically my parenting podcast, Blissful Parenting. I'm the host of that show, and I feel like I get like the most amazing parenting coaching through that show as the host. I say, when you have a podcast, I think it's one of the best things you get. And likewise on my show, get to meet such incredible people that I wouldn't normally have had an opportunity to have a conversation with, and it's opened the doors to so many different conversations, different relationships, and different like collaborations in business too, which is really, really unique. So in your intro, I mentioned something about the 8 dimensions of wellness, which is where you really like to align people on your show around those 8 dimensions of wellness. Can you share with our audience what those 8 dimensions are?
Sure. The main thing is most people think of the physical, the intellectual, the emotional, and spiritual, but there actually are 4 more dimensions of wellness. There's environmental, financial, social, and occupational. Just think, if your environment is not good or is cohesive, causes a problem. Financial, big problem. Social, if you have issues with social, and also occupational, that all goes together. So those 8 dimensions, if they're out of balance anywhere, that can cause you to have health issues or physical issues or even family issues that trickle down to your family. That's why I try to have different professionals on that encompass 1 or 2 or more of those in each show.
So Jason, I love how you arranged your podcast with all those different dimensions that you mentioned in there. Have you found that that's been a really great strategy for keeping the content specific on your show or keeping up with the content? Because I know sometimes when you start a podcast and you kind of have like a more general topic, you can have the podcast can be going like all sorts of different ways where like I feel like your dimensions have allowed it to keep kind of consistent.
Absolutely. Yeah. What I try to do is each show I'm trying to focus on at least 1 or 2 elements that really help me focus. Like if it's someone that does fitness or yoga or Pilates, then I'll focus on physical and pretty much mental. If someone, for instance, is an environmentalist, it's environment, and sometimes it can lead to occupational. It all depends on where I'm trying to focus. But overall, that does really help me to keep that core focus of what I'm trying to capture on each show.
That's great. What's been the biggest surprise since launching your podcast?
The biggest surprise is sometimes trying to find individuals that fit every category. A lot of times I'm looking for, who's a financial people can't talk about finances sometimes unless they get approval from their business or from the actual company they work for. I had to sign documents and I still couldn't get them on the show, because they were like stockbrokers and they couldn't talk about financial wellness, couldn't even give vague information about financial wellness. So that was a challenge. But overall, I'm surprised sometimes of the success of the person and how well they're doing and being on my show. I feel like I'm making my show high quality, but at the same time, it's even better quality because these people are high caliber individuals that I'm meeting.
And I'm sure as you've gone on too, the caliber is getting higher and higher and higher. You set the bar higher for like, and also too, like, I'm sure your comfort level of who you're reaching out to gets like, when you get more confident in reaching out to people of a higher caliber too. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, I would love to know how you launched your podcast. So you said that it was a part of a contest. So it's always interesting to talk about behind the mic for interviews here about what exactly it took you to launch, how long it took you to launch, and if you were to do it differently, if you were starting today, was there anything that you do differently?
The first thing was in Toastmasters, I had to give a speech about what I did to actually get the podcast started from day one. And then I was actually trying to look for a platform for streaming. So I found the platform to actually get it up there. But if I were to do it differently, I would definitely have contacted you because I didn't know you before I actually started doing a podcast.
Well, that's very kind of you to say that.
It was so much stuff going on. I was like editing and this and that. So in the future, I definitely want to get a little bit more and the artwork. I'm actually starting to do artwork now because people are asking for artwork for the podcast. I was just doing the show, putting a picture up of the person and promoting on social media was a lot more behind the scenes. And that's something I'm trying to work on more of. But overall, having your background and your business to help me with that would have been a great from the start. They would.
Well, it's too nice of you to say that. I definitely wasn't fishing for that, but that's awesome. And so doing it yourself, did you find that, a lot of the information is out there. It's pretty free, all the information, and following along that information, I think that's kind of neat that you had a deadline in with your speech, that you were trying to do this as a contest, because some of the things I see people who really want to start a podcast, they get going, and without that like accountability or that deadline, it could take years, right? And I know that was my story as well. It took me 4 years to launch my podcast because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to talk about. So would you agree that having that deadline really helped you get through that finish line in completion?
Absolutely. Having a deadline is so important. Even for my book, I've been thinking about this book for 10 years, and the podcast was how to get the speech done literally within about 3-4 weeks to get advice and feedback on it. And also trying to find the name of the podcast was challenging too. It used to be called something else. It's Wellness on the Go now, but before it was called Wellness Master Q&A. So it was about Wellness Master Q&A, question and answer. But I think Wellness on the Go is a little bit more easier to understand.
Mm-hmm. Probably easier to type into Google too.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, I want to flip the switch a little bit here from your podcast to your zone of genius, which is really the wellness. So what area of wellness do you love specifically focusing on with your clients?
I try to make it more of a holistic approach, like you were mentioning earlier. I've been including meditation and also yoga as part of my daily routine in the morning. And I include that with my clients. Because a lot of people just focus on the exercise, the weightlifting, the stretching. I'm doing a lot more mental aspects because most of my clients are corporate. And being a corporate client, they forget about this. Just take a minute to set back and do your meditation to clear your mind. Do the yoga and do your qigong to get that body moving. And that takes away most of the anxiety. You start your day, end your day, very similar. And then you can sleep better. I clear my mind at night. I always teach my clients to make a list, and everything you want to think about when you're sleeping, write it down, and then take that list. And then if you ever think about it at night, think, oh, it's on the list. I won't forget it. And that clears your mind. It's a list to clear your mind. I'll call it like the blank slate list or something like that. I'll work it out today, but it's a list to clear your mind at night. So I'm teaching them those aspects, not just the physical, but also the mental is a big part.
Yeah, that's great. It's more of a holistic approach. Interesting, because I think, especially with corporate clients, I'm sure stress levels are like a huge issue. What are some of the things, and this is great for our audience too, because our audience are mostly entrepreneurs. So what are some things that we can do to help reduce our stress levels as we're navigating ourselves through entrepreneurship?
The biggest part is finding that happy medium. You don't want to work 12, 14 hours a day, go to sleep, wake up and do it again. If you have a family, neglecting your family, and slow down. The biggest part about it is you need to start your day with gratitude, with meditation, and a light form of exercise. Like I do the sun salutation every morning. Honestly, from a business standpoint, you need to really focus on your mind, then your body, and then your business. Because the mind, body, and business go together. If you have a bad mind and a bad body, usually your business fails overall. And I'm not saying physical body, I'm just saying overall movement and your brain connection. So if you don't have that physical overall sensation of lack of anxiety and tension, what I do every single morning, I always tell my clients this. I have a mantra. I tell them, release the tension, release the stress, release the anxiety, let the muscles relax. And I focus on a golden light and I go into a real deep type of meditation. And then I stretch and I'm ready for the day. So, and you could do it anytime. You could do that in the middle of your day. If you're stressing out, close your eyes and say those 4 lines, and that will put you right back into where you're calm, relaxed, and really at peace with yourself.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like entrepreneurship's caused a little bit of like ADD in everyone, where you're like going from thing to thing and like task to task and call to call. And even, it's funny because we shared this on the podcast I was on in your show. I used to be a personal trainer. I was in the wellness industry, and going from that being around wellness and being in movement all day long and supporting people in movement and in healthy eating and being in that world was great. And then going to working on a computer all day, holy smokes, my body went into shock and I think had a bit of a freak out. There was just so much less movement going on. So finding that balance between being active all day long and fatigued at the end of the day from being active all day long versus being inactive all day and being fatigued at the end of the day. Like you said, I like how you really have that holistic approach with your clients, focusing on the mindset and focusing on the body and focusing on the strength as well. Encompasses seems to be a much better result. Share with us a little bit about what you found by helping with like the clients that you do incorporate that versus the clients that don't.
I have two clients that I train online, a husband and wife. I used to train them in person, but with COVID, we changed a little bit more aspect online. They love the fact that when I do yoga with them at the end of their workout and also teach them about the meditation, they actually went to a yoga class and thanked me for being able to know yoga already and go into a class and feel comfortable. I make people feel comfortable. Even though I personal train them, I encourage them to go other places to work out and do other classes like Pilates and yoga and meditation and learn from all different professionals. The people that don't have that background, I feel like you can pump iron all day long, but you can be still stressed out to the max. You can do any sport you want, but if you don't really focus on stretching, a lot of people work out and don't stretch. Super tight, they walk around like big dudes with chicken legs. But overall, you really need that overall mental aspect, because that's where your brain is what runs your whole body. And if you don't have that full mental aspect, the mind is really powerful. Without that, the whole body doesn't work properly. Even though you look strong, you may not be physically, mentally strong. That's the biggest part, especially in today's society.
Yeah, there's so many external stresses that are on us, like from family to work to, just in our environment, that helping us deal with those, gearing your clients with the tools to decrease those external stresses, I'm sure is made for some wonderful results.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Jason, I'd love to dive back into your podcast for a second here, where we talk about what's coming up in 2022 for your podcast. What are some things that you have goals around? And, share a little bit about, we didn't really talk about the structure of your show. When I first met you, you were recording your podcast in your RV, and take us there. Why the RV?
I wanted to be different. I always try to be different. And the RV for me is, I had a mobile studio. It's an RV trailer, but I just recently purchased a small 24-foot drivable RV, and I want to be able to go on location. I want to be able to go into someone's facility eventually when COVID dies down a little bit, to talk to them, hook up my recording equipment, or have them come into the RV and talk to me, and eventually look at their facility. My real goal was to do podcasting online and also physically go and visit the facility and turn it into a physical show down the road, where I'm actually visit the facility, talk to them about their business, how they help people out, learn from them, and then use that aspect of what I saw in person, like kind of like a talk show aspect of it, and on scene and also in studio. That was where I was going with that podcast aspect. And I feel like Wellness on the Go goes along with Body Express. It's all about movement, getting out there and experience. But most of my clients right now that I have on the show, or people that I have on the show, are all online, from Australia to Mexico to Brazil to India, all over the place, which is really awesome, because I couldn't travel to all those places with the RV. It'd be impossible.
Yeah, I love how it gives us that worldwide sense of our environment. Our network is so global now, rather than local. It's expanded our horizons and allow us to reach people that we never would have. We have clients on 7 different continents right now. It's so cool. Very awesome. So what's the plans for you shared a little bit about what the plan for 2022 is, but you want to start implementing now. At one point, there is a cooking aspect to your show. Is that still part of your show?
Yes, I actually do. I was trying to put cooking on every show, but that was really challenging without a staff and a crew. A production crew, I would need to get all that going. But I do have cooks from all around the world on select episodes. Like I try to do like every other or every third episode a chef or a home cook. And I got really good people. I get them to pre-record their cooking demo in their house or home or business, send it to me. I did an interview and I mesh it together, edit it as if they were doing it live. It's really great because I had a person that was a cook and her son was a professional videographer and made an awesome video. And it looked like it looked like literally she was on a cooking show. It was really, really good. This came out 2 weeks ago. And my goal this year is to do more solos, actually. I'm trying to do more solo shows talking about what I would have in my book and educate people on that. And that's something I think as a professional, I want to showcase a little bit more of my background and do some solo shows, maybe 10, 15-minute solo shows, and try to get that out there as well.
I'm glad you're saying that. That is something we're finding with a lot of our clients too. Everyone's so excited to start a podcast and go out and interview other people and get other people. But then we're like turning the mic on the other people all the time, where we forget actually sometimes our listeners come for us. And statistically shows across the board, whenever I look at people's podcast stats, that their solo episodes are usually the highest ranked ones because they've come for you and the host, right? So adding a little bit more of you in your shows is something that a lot of our clients are just looking at adding, and myself included. I don't have many solo shows either because I love interviewing people so much. So flipping the switch and having some solo shows, I think, is an awesome idea. That's really great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I learn a lot from you. Believe me, I look forward to the podcast connect every week or every 2 weeks. And that's why I learn most of my guests, actually, which is really awesome.
Well, that's great. That's one of our favorite things to do is connect people together. So I'm so glad we connected this year, Jason. And I'm so glad that I can now introduce you to our audience and Amplify You. And Amplify You can get to know you and your show and all the work that you're doing out there in the world. And so I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And any last words for our listeners out there who are at home, maybe thinking about starting a podcast in 2022?
Go for it. I say, go for it. Try it out. You can't really fail. Yeah. You can just do the best you can, and it gets better and better as you go along. And the advice is not to be too scripted, which I've done a lot of. And now it's more free flow. And I find this relax, have fun, be funny, add the humor, and just enjoy it. Don't make it a job. At first it was a job for me, I felt like, but now it's like, okay, I'm doing this for fun. It should be enjoyable, no stress, and just have fun with it and learn from other people and listen to other podcasts. But just go for it.
Love it. And as so many of our clients say, it's the most favorite thing they do in their business. I love it. Jason, send us to where we can find out more about your show and more about you.
Sure. It's going to be www.anchor.fm/wellness on the go. And then if you want to find me at my business, it's bodyexpressws.com. And as you can see, you can come and check it out, ask questions, and have a good time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for being with us today. Amplify You family, go check him out and make sure you follow along on his Wellness on the Go journey. And I bet you'll find some really great recipes in there and really great tips to keep you healthy in 2022. Thanks, Jason. Take care.
You're welcome, Michelle. Have a good day. Take care. Thank you.